Today on the Topping Show, Matt Walsh goes viral for calling marriage not just natural, but supernatural. A Democrat from Maine actually says that her goal is to help Somalia. A city-funded grocery store fails as mass thefts leave most of the shelves empty. The WNBA players wore shirts that says pay us what they're worth while never actually turning a profit. Acura is killing the TLX after 30 years. And Ford now issues their 90th recall of the year. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Guys, he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or business owner, reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free flamethrower with every IT purchase with Picatinny rail adapter, so you can mount it to any standard AR-15, like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the flamethrower button to learn more and see me shooting a flamethrower. And lastly, trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Going over to the business part podcast, you have Rest in Peace as Acura kills one of the most iconic cars. Now, this is brought to us thanks to Jay Perez at thedrive.com, in which he says, quote, RIP Acura TLX, yet another huge loss for sporty sedans. We're out one for the practical and fun drive Acura TLX, which in this picture here actually looks pretty good, which is, I would argue, almost a rare thing for many modern cars. Now, they say, quote, another great sedan is joining its peers in car heaven. The Acura TLX will cease to exist at the end of the month when production of the sports sedan concludes after 30 years and 1.2 million units being sold. According to the automaker, the decision to pull the plug on the TLX was made to, quote, better align with the evolving needs of customers and the changing landscape of the automotive industry, unquote. Which, I mean, reality, that means they had to come up against the big, bad, evil thing of, well, overregulation, I would argue, with, again, this being a gas car, and the government doesn't like that in many countries. And also, a lot of Americans especially love them SUVs and crossovers. That is one of the biggest growing trends in, auto industry for many years now. And sedans, they're not popular as they used to be, unfortunately. Now, they say it also cites that despite its long-time popularity, sales of the model have steadily declined as, again, car buyers are going towards SUVs. They say that the TLX was born as an Acura TL in 1995 and has been in production every year since. Over the years, the TL and TLX design have morphed to reflect current trends, but somehow always managed to look sharp, sporty, but not overly so. Furthermore, its wide range of trims from mild to Type S and even PMC edition, though I don't think they're talking about the PMC ammo company. I mean, it'd be cool if they put some nice Korean ammo in the car, but I don't think it's that PMC. Now, they say that they also continue to have various tastes and backgrounds to find the right model for their users. And it looks so much better in that gold paint job right there. They have some matte silver pictures here. Give me that. That's such a matte gray does look good on some cars, but yeah, for the Acura, I would want a more bold color. I kind of like that amalgamation of orange and gold coming together there. To me, that looks really cool. Now, it did say, quote, that I saw a chance to drive the TLX Type S for the first time and was amazed by its versatility. While the styling was a touch try hard for me, its size, driving dynamics, comfort, and fuel efficiency were truly outstanding. While he says, while on a bathroom break at Buc-ee's in Nashville, I had two different people come up and compliment me on my purchase. Clearly, the TLX had a following. Which they said that, quote, with Acura's recent launch of the ADX crossover, again, big old SUV, and the upcoming relaunch of the RSX, as you guessed it, the electric crossover, the TLX won't be getting replaced with a traditional 3-box car. Yeah. Which, again, I always thought these cars looked pretty cool to me. Again, it was one of those things where, well, budget-wise, I'm much more of a Honda guy. I love my Honda Civic Si. It's got 3 pedals, as all cars should have by default. But, I mean, Acura has always been a really cool brand. You know, obviously, it's a luxury brand owned by Honda, a lot of part sharing. But, yeah, I'm not too surprised, especially lately, the more modern production of this vehicle. I might have seen it once or twice. Like, the sample size, and again, that's anecdotal experience, I understand. But they really just do not make a lot of these anymore. The demand just, unfortunately, is not there. Granted, it's still, thankfully, Acura with the Integra. That Type S is pretty cool. Production for that is much, much cheaper. Obviously, there's a lot of part sharing with the Honda Civic Type R. But, yeah, not too surprised, but I'm a little sad to see one less cool sedan biting the dust. But it's very rare for companies to ever bring it back in terms of, closing the chapter on a vehicle. I mean, shoot, the Ford Bronco died for how many years before they brought that back from the dead? So there's a small chance this will come back in our lifetime, maybe. But again, with such a current trend moving away from cars and going to SUVs and trucks, I say the outlook for this vehicle to ever come back in our lifetime is pretty slim. But let me know in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the Cultural Part podcast, and Matt Walsh calling marriage not just natural, but supernatural, as he continues to go viral this week on X, as he combats other viewpoints, famously with Andrew Tate. Now, Andrew Tate says polygamy is, well, I don't know how to, what was Andrew Tate's terrible accent? Well, some might argue it's worse than mine. He says stuff like, sparkling water, and what color is your Bugatti? Why do you have marriage? Maybe that's what Andrew Tate sounds like. Maybe. Probably not. But nevertheless, Matt Walsh at hashtag Matt Walsh blog. I'll probably play for a minute or two, but without too much further ado.
The setup, which Andrew Tate describes and promotes, where men have children by many different women, has lots of historical precedent. It does. This is the way that primitive societies have operated for thousands of years. And today, this strategy, if we can call it that, is very popular in certain communities in this country. And you can always spot those communities because they're the ones that are the most dysfunctional, the filthiest, most destitute, and crime-ridden places in the country. Show me the murder rate and the average year.
What is he talking about? Places like Chicago, where they have many baby daddies. That is a very safe part of the United States. That city is a staple of success and safety. Dark humor joke. Because, yeah, Chicago's been terrible for about 100 years. And the culture and politics have been pretty consistent over there. I don't see it getting better anytime soon. But enough with my ADHD.
Income in any neighborhood. And I will tell you whether most of the children in that neighborhood have a father in the home or not. And I will never be wrong. Andrew Tate talks about this kind of lifestyle as though it's natural. In a post on Sunday, he made that claim explicitly. He said, quote, monogamy isn't natural for men. Men are men. This is how they'll always be. And he's right in a certain way. It is natural. It's natural in the sense that it appeals to our most base and uncivilized impulses. Another word might be primitive. An even better word would be animalistic, which is why it's so commonly found in the animal kingdom. Reptiles and fish behave this way. You're not going to find a monogamous lizard or shark. Monkeys are almost always non-monogamous. Go down the list of animal species, and they almost all approach family formation the way that Andrew Tate prescribes. But the problem is that we are not monkeys or lizards or sharks. We are human beings. And my controversial contention is that we should act like it. Is monogamy natural? Even better, it's supernatural. Man and wife become one at the altar. They are bound together by the vow they made before God.
The fact he didn't rip open his flannel shirt to reveal some type of Superman costume, just a lost marketing and joke opportunity. Come on, Matt. You got a whole team of hundreds of people behind you at the Daily Wire. Insert some more puns in there.
This is above our base instincts. And so is composing a symphony or sculpting the statue of David out of a massive hunk of marble. These things are achieved, just like any great thing is achieved, by rejecting temptation, subordinating our base desires, embracing some measure of hardship for the sake of something far greater than whatever momentary pleasure we can experience by giving in to them. And there is nothing in this world more manly, more masculine than that. In fact, I would say this is the very definition of masculinity. Can you do the harder thing for the sake of the greater good? If you're going to impart one thing to your sons and your daughters as a father, it should be this: teaching them how to do the harder thing for the greater good. And if you can't, or if you won't, then you aren't manly. And no matter how much money you have or how much you can bench press, doesn't matter. Now, Tate says that men will be men, and yes, that's true, but will they be good men? Will they be men of virtue and fidelity and discipline? They can be if they pursue the higher thing. In a similar way, I might say that many men will father children. That's easy to do. But will they be fathers? They have children. Will they raise them? That's the hard part. Now, I keep talking about hardship and difficulty, rightly so. But I don't want to make it sound like being a faithful husband and father is nothing but misery and drudgery, and all you can do is just grit your teeth and bear it. That's not the case. I love being married. I love being a dad. It's a lot of fun much of the time. It's a source of great joy. That's what happens when you simply let go of your childish need to put your own immediate gratification before anything and everything all the time. You discover an ability to do the harder thing and actually enjoy it. The way that guys like Tate describe marriage makes it seem like, we're living in entirely different universes, and perhaps we are, because he describes marriage like it's a labor camp. A man is imprisoned by his controlling, ungrateful, promiscuous wife who runs out to cheat on him as soon as he leaves for work in the morning. He makes it seem, or outright claims, that it's essentially impossible for a man to find a good, faithful woman who will bear his children, stay true to her vows, and respect and love him until he dies.
In the United States in 2025, I'm not saying it's impossible to find that, but statistically speaking, it seems to be very, very, very quite hard.
But how can it be impossible? I am currently in such an arrangement.
Yep, it's because you're extremely blessed and you found a wife over a decade ago, or you had the super feminist modern woman in 2025.
I know many men in the same boat. If you don't know any truly happy and faithful marriages, then I would suggest that the problem isn't with marriage. It's that you are surrounding yourself with awful people.
Yeah. There's confirmation bias, of course.
Now, finally, back to the subject of raising boys. I will say that if you want boys to become men, you cannot leave them to be raised almost entirely by women. Boys need the daily guidance and example that can only be provided by a man who lives in the home and has committed himself to that family and that family alone.
True.
Now, Tate says that he has more sons than I do. I believe him. But my sons and my daughters have more of me than Tate's children will ever have of him. I come home to them every night. Their home is my home. I sit at the head of our table when we eat dinner. We say our prayers before bed. I give them a kiss goodnight. And every night for years, as I'm turning off the lights in their room, they say to me, "Dad, will you stay up for a while?" Because they want to know that I'll be there awake, watching over the house so they can rest easy. And my answer is always yes, no matter how tired I am. You need to be at home with your children. You need to be the captain of the ship, which means you have to be on the ship. You need to eat and sleep there and walk the deck with your crew and share in the hardship and the struggle and the joy and the triumph. And most of all, you need to be there when the storms come, and they will come. And that's why I have one wife and one family, and they will be mine until I die. And I'd rather die than leave them.
His until they die or he dies. Or, as in the case of 70 to 80% of the time, the wife divorces the man, or the wife divorces the husband. Again, I think the propensity of that, or the odds of that for Matt Walsh is near zero. Again, they've been together for, I believe, like 15 years. They got married young, and they do have a lot of kids together. I think he's on kid number 6 now, or he has 6 children at the moment. But it's also an instance where, again, it's anecdotal experience, but also some statistics. Again, women are initiating divorce an overwhelming majority of the time. And you read all of this goes viral on social media every other day. They always say they're doing it for their happiness or to seek their truth or some cliche bullshit, which shows that, they value their own selfish needs over the needs of their children or their family or the husband. Whereas it is a cliched saying, but, cliches become a cliche for a reason. But a man will sacrifice his happiness for his family. A woman will sacrifice her family for her happiness. I've seen it a couple times. Not all my friends, obviously. And my friends who are more religious, they are much more happily married, and they are all still married to this day. So I think that is another thing working in Matt Walsh's favor in terms of, the value of a marriage and monogamous relationships. More often than not, they're going to be, I would venture to say, he'll be okay. But, and again, I think Andrew Tate is wrong. My issue is the U.S. government, how much the courts have destroyed marriage in the United States and gave all the advantages to the lady. It's the one contract in your life you'll ever sign where there's a disproportionate advantage for one person to break that contract. In my opinion, the government should have nothing to do with it because it is a religious ceremony. But nowadays, the government is all up in our business, everything we do, including marriage. You can not only lose your child and never have the ability to see them again if the wife decides to divorce you. But on top of that, you have to pay child support, which I understand the intent. But a wise man once said, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. How many viral videos have we seen of the wife using the child support to fuel their extravagant lifestyles? There should be some oversight. Maybe actually have access to the visibility of their, like a credit card or any other type of funding mechanism to actually audit how they spend that money, to actually ensure it goes to the children. Then you also have alimony, depending on where you live in the United States, and there's a lot of variables in that. But you could be paying alimony for the rest of your life. I mean, you could come home from work, find her cheating on you, she divorces you, she gets the house, and you're paying her for the rest of your life. That is scaring the living hell out of so many young guys these days. And so I agree with Matt Walsh. Obviously, I mean, historically speaking, marriage is one of the best inventions of mankind. It's, the nuclear family is how you raise the best successful kids. You look at the kids who get in the trouble the most. They're predominantly raised by single mothers, as more often than not, just the human nature. They usually don't have the discipline, or they don't implement disciplinary actions upon the children. Interestingly enough, you look at the children who are raised by single dads, they do a lot better, more successful careers, less crime, less get into trouble. So, I mean, I don't know how culturally we're going to move or fix this in the United States. I think we need to fix the courts as well as, fix all the interference with the government. But the reason why so many young guys are attracted to Andrew Tate, in part, is because they've seen so many men having their lives utterly destroyed. And then they think, oh yeah, it'll be a good idea to sleep around with all these women. Spoiler, it won't be. Even if you get a small primal reaction, I guess there's a little pun there for Andrew Tate, but it's an instance where even if you get that instant gratification from that encounter, I mean, you're going to be on the hook to, morally, you're supposed to take care of the children, and financially in many cases as well. But again, more and more people are attracted to Andrew Tate. I don't think it's a good thing, but he is very much a overcorrection, and obviously some of the things he teaches are utterly abhorrent. But yeah, it is interesting that in 2025, this is very controversial of Matt Walsh to say that marriage is a great thing, but I'm not too surprised that it is going so viral this whole week. Now, again, this got 1.5 million views and 9.8 thousand likes. One of the first comments comes to us thanks to Macedonian for Life, who says, quote, Tate is a retard. He's leading young men into unhappiness. He's like the bitches on OnlyFans, getting 92 likes, which even crazier. Not only does Andrew Tate espouse these ideals, but he's making millions of dollars selling that stupid ass Hustlers University, where people are actually paying him to learn. Well, people have audited those classes. They don't actually teach you how to make money or be successful. It's the most rudimentary, basic advice you can find for free on the internet. So in my opinion, there's absolutely no value. In fact, I might have to start something like Hustlers Community College to compete with him, and actually has real value, but I'm only partially kidding. Now, Luke says, quote, creating a vessel for the soul is pretty wild. Doing it the way God intended is even more amazing. In 37 likes. MH Global Famous says, will this guy lose his job in his marriage if he is practicing polygamy? It's the famous Coldplay concert. We had the astronomer company CEO and the HR gal holding each other and getting busted for cheating. It got 37 likes, which, again, depending on where you're living, polygamy is or is not legal. And in the United States, you actually cannot legally get married to multiple people. I don't know if that'll change in our lifetime, culturally speaking, if we'll have a shift like that. I don't think so. Who knows? The courts have approved a lot of marriage things that, go against religious foundations, ideals, but who knows? Britta No Soup says, quote, this is a great segment, getting 139 likes. Pentelesis says, why don't you just debate Andrew Tate? Getting 90 likes. I'd watch that. Be moderately entertaining. Marty says, Tate is a broken child man. His father was absent. His disgusting lifestyle is a direct result of not having a dad. Getting 129 likes. There's also the cliche theory that, some gal heard him a long time ago. Let's see, scrolling down more and more. Ruby 2B says, quote, Tate is a lunatic. God made Adam and Eve, getting 13 likes. Atticus Fitch says, nothing is supernatural, getting 15 likes. A contrarian statement. He was not ratioed. We also have Anshash Stefine. He says, quote, easy to pick on Tate. Why would you make an argument against Elon and his several families, getting 65 likes? Well, yeah, Matt Walsh, I think, has roasted Elon multiple times. Elon Musk famously has, 60 plus kids or something like that? It's insane. Forget, is the CEO of Telegram. I believe he actually outnumbers the number of outnumber the number of children produced compared to Elon Musk. His name eludes me at the moment, but the CEO and founder of Telegram. And he kind of justifies it saying, oh yeah, I give all the kids, and when I die, they'll all get my money. It's like, Yeah, that's not, I mean, that's a variable that helps people in life, but, nothing replaces having a dad in the house. And every child deserves a father and a mother. Lucas answer says, quote, Matt, using your own logic, the wisest man, quote, the wisest man who ever lived, King Solomon, quote, was, quote, primitive and barbaric, getting 45 likes. Was he ratioed by that statement? Maybe. Nope. Caesar simply says, use a time machine Muppet, enjoy the the P word while dying when you're 40, getting 1 like. Darkstar says biblical Israel collapsed after his reign and fell into paganism after that, getting 4 likes. Arthur Grant Hazen says, not when your woman makes you miserable, getting 12 likes. Which, yeah, that's another thing I think a lot of men are, I mean, one of the most famous interviews is went viral this whole year. You have a gal being interviewed, and you ask, are you happy? And then the guy asks her, is your husband happy? And she's completely flabbergasted by the situation, by that question. And it's obviously just by her body language. No one's ever asked her that, and she's never thought of that. So yeah, there's a disproportionate, I can't speak today. When I first started the show, barely anyone tuned in. But as I slowly but surely gained more subscribers, I've become slightly better at speaking. I mean, shoot, I used to speak faster than Ben Shapiro and more awkwardly than Joe Biden trying to climb upstairs. But as I got more subscribers, I've been speaking better and better. So I have that theory. More people that click that button, that would be a great way to make the show perfect because it'll improve my speaking skills. So if you can click that button, tell your friends, I greatly appreciate it again. But yeah, there's been an overwhelming focus on society to make sure the woman is happy. One of the dumbest things that I think it led to a lot of men just giving up is the cliche saying of happy wife, happy life. The whole focus is make her happy at all cost, which many men do, and they still get divorced. Now, you also have the thoughtful Mill saying, quote, the nuclear family has generated the most success for most people in all of human history. Mom, dad, and kids is where the magic happens, getting 59. Let's make it 60 likes. Crack Ron Holmes says, please, you are the biggest pussy on the planet Earth, getting 91 likes. A contrarian statement brewing to the surface. I love American News says, quote, I agree. And that's a quote from the Pope saying, quote, we cannot bless what God has not instituted. The union between people of the same sex is not marriage, getting 34 likes, which, culturally speaking, is fascinating how pretty much everyone in the United States agreed with. Even the Democrat Party, famously Barack Obama, they all agreed with that until overnight they go, oh yeah, now we got to embrace this. And even crazier to think, I mean, Donald Trump, he's the first U.S. president to get elected who was pro-gay marriage. That's been a huge shift in the United States and I believe many countries as well. It is also fascinating to see the divorce rates between men and women and women and women and men and men. Spoiler, it's like 74% was women and women. I believe it was 35% was man on man and about 46% husband and wife. Fascinating. There's this coincidence, of course. Now you also have Rollo Tomasi say, quote, then backing up Matt, come here to Vegas and debate with, who's this, Myron Gaines? And me, getting 209 likes. Scrolling down more and more. Ambassador Charles says, quote, dear Matt Walsh, you are aware that there's an entire state called Utah filled with nice and decent white people who also believe in polygamy. Would you call those people savage and dysfunctional too? Getting 78 likes. I'm glad they brought that up because it's kind of cliche and it's one of those things where I have a Mormon friend and yes, they are weird and they are overly happy. It's kind of nice, but they actually do not have polygamy in Utah. I mean, Utah is famous for having a lot of Mormons. And spoiler, they haven't believed in that, I believe, in 100 years. They still have the reputation, though, and it's still the cliche first thing you think about when you think of Mormons. But no, that actually is not the case. Though that statement by Ambassador Charles did get 78 likes. Yes, Baldwin Blaze said, quote, the reason Andrew Tate and Myron Gaines resonate with young men today is because they know that all you guys do is push men towards monogamous marriages, commit to women who later divorce them, and wreck their lives. 70% of women are taking your cash and your kids, so no thanks, getting 93 likes. You know what? 94 likes, because that is actually, that's a pretty good point. A lot of young guys, especially when they see their dad getting divorced and being viscerally destroyed, having to live in I used to call a sad single man apartment, small studio apartment with a little hot plate. There's a reason so many men are turned off by marriage these days. I mean, legally speaking, you are screwed. It's a terrible legal situation to be in. A lot of young men are saying, well, I got to spend a lot of money, usually racked up a lot of debt, and then they can take everything for the rest of your life sometimes. I mean, I believe it's California. There's lifetime alimony. And I believe after 10 years of marriage in Texas is lifetime alimony, which I think is very sexist because I believe women can do, they can work. I believe many of them, I believe they're capable of that. They can't make a career in the WNBA, but they can get real jobs. So again, I think it would be interesting for Matt Walsh to debate Andrew Tate. And again, some of this is Republicans' fault. I mean, Ronald Reagan famously got rid of the no-fault divorce, or introduced no-fault divorce, so you just get divorced on a whim. That was one of the big points in history that caused divorce rates to skyrocket. So we'll see what happens in the United States, but culturally speaking, I understand why people are moving away from marriage. I think it's a terrible thing that people are moving away from it, but I understand the odds are against you. There's a lot of things you can't control, and the whole legal system is against you as well. So while I agree with Matt, I think we need to do some drastic changes. And this is in addition to so many delusional people, like, well, you go on the YouTube and the Facebook, you see all the street interviews with inebriated women and men, and all these people are saying, oh yeah, I need a guy who's 6 foot tall, makes $1 million a year, yada, yada. And my favorite calculator is like the cat food calculator, the crazy delusion calculator, where if you enter, the age and demographics and the income that you want from your man, it'll show you how crazy you are statistically speaking. It'll give you like I believe they give you a kitty litter rating out of like 5 cans or bags of kitty litter. Again, there's such high expectations, and it is a really hard sell right now in the United States. I wish it wasn't. But let me know. I mean, if you're single, I mean, do you think you would go out and get married these days? And again, another thing that's concerning a lot of folks is, even if you get a prenup, which most women won't sign, some instances they're piercing that and overriding that in some states, in some instances. Again, not all. I mean, some people used to feel more comfortable getting married because of those. Also, keep in mind, that only covers what you made, earned, and built before marriage as well. So let me know in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting cultural news, you have the WNBA putting on t-shirts saying, pay us what they're worth, as they've lost about $500 million since starting the, I would argue the charity case that is the female sports leagues of the WNBA. Sparkles thanks to End Wokeness, and he says, quote, the WNBA lost $50 million every year and has never generated a profit. You deserve $0. I disagree. They actually should be paying the owners of the WNBA because they lose money every single year because no one cares about them. I should rephrase that. So few people care about them that they've never made a profit. And what was it, 28 years? Now, again, some companies take some time to make a profit. Amazon famously lost money for, 5 to 10 years before they ever actually turned a profit? But they're building a lot of momentum. They're moving the right direction. And, I mean, shoot, the WNBA, the only direction they move is, I guess up and down the court, never up and actually dunking the basketball or, usually getting the ball in. But yeah, and it's hilarious. They have all these basketball stars. I mean, guys in middle school could beat their ass. And they literally have t-shirts. I know Caitlin Clark there just because she's an Iowan, so I know of her. You have is it Sloth from Ice Age? I forget his name. But I think he's there as well. And their t-shirts say, pay us what you owe us, which again would be a negative dollar value because you lose the money every single year. It's hilarious. They go, yeah, we deserve to get paid what the NBA does. Hell no. It's hilarious. You lose money every year. And it's the most hilarious thing and a great use case of, female sports just not being profitable. They might be someday. I mean, the only thing you have to blame is women. They run it, they operate it, and they're the main demographic of who's supposed to be watching it. The U.S. has a little over 50% of women in the United States by population. If every one of those gals watched the sports balls games from the WNBA, they'd be highly profitable. I don't think they'd ever be as profitable as the NBA. Again, then they would deserve to make real money because they would be generating a profit. Imagine having an employee in an organization where you lose money every single year and they want to raise. Someone is making fun of them saying, how can they make less than a target manager? A target manager contributes to society. Granted, Target is above my pay grade. I don't shop there. Basically just Walmart, but more expensive and fancier and less of odds that you're going to get stabbed. But I like to live a little. I like to dodge down the alleys or the aisles at Walmart. You never know what might happen. But in all seriousness, a target manager contributes to society. I might not believe in some of the things this company stands for, but the company generates a profit and provides a product and service that people are willing to pay for, and they actually grow and develop. The WNBA, again, it's almost unfathomable how bad and inept they are as an organization and their leaders are. They've never made a profit. Ever. It's comical. Now, this went pretty viral all week. It got 25.7 million views as well as 257,000 likes. And, geez Louise. I thought my fashion apparel was bad sometimes. They have a rudimentary black t-shirt. It looks like they got it from a cheap printing shop too. Terrible. Terrible marketing as well. Now, going to the comment section, one of the first ones comes to us thanks to Levi, who says, he asked Grok, when was the last time the WNBA was profitable? Grok says, quote, the WNBA has never turned a profit in its 28-year history. Per NBA commissioner statements and reports through 2025, it lost $10 million annually pre-2023, $50 million in 2024, despite a revenue growth of $200+ million. Yeah, that got 16,000 likes from Grok. Got the Eagleman says, quote, the WNBA is trash, getting 272 likes. Which, I don't know. I'd argue they're actually worse than trash. When I was a kid, they used to have a trash day where you put out extra trash at the curb. And sometimes you'd actually find some cool stuff and you repair it. That's how I got one of my alarm clocks. Got a nice aluminum ladder when I was a kid. Sold that for like $75. I was a king for a day. I mean, that was all the money I could spend in the arcade and still put some in the bank. I mean, I was baller that day throwing in my parents' Honda Accord. So I would argue that's actually less value than trash in many instances. Also, Zupo says, quote, they all deserve to be mocked and then forgotten, getting 209 likes. Democrat Meat ATM says, quote, when you start turning a profit for the WNBA rather than have it carried by the NBA, then you'll be paid what you're owed. Until then, play ball, getting 134 likes, which is also hilarious that, strong women, WNBA, when they have Sugar Daddy, the NBA, funding them since day one. And the NBA is also still the biggest shareholder of the organization, which isn't saying much because, again, they lose money every single year. Redacted says, protesting for a pay cut is crazy. LMFAO getting 18,000 likes. Yep. David Santa Clara says, quote, the average NBA or WNBA salary is $72,000 a year. They're overpaid. That's true, getting 5.6 thousand likes. You also have Shadow Politics saying, quote, you misunderstood. They're asking for less pay. Pay us what you owe us. Getting 5.9 thousand likes. Malachi Borden Harin says, quote, hard truth, no one cares about women's sports. Getting 9,000 likes. Statistically true, because again, if enough people watch the sports balls game, one of the biggest revenue generators and mechanisms and parameters for measure of success in sports, how many tickets you can sell, how many people are tuning into the shows. Spoiler alert, there's a lot of empty seats at WNBA games. I suppose we could increase those numbers by having it as perhaps a punishment for prisoners, which they'd be forced to watch WNBA. That might be cruel and unusual punishment per the U.S. Bill of Rights Constitution to actually force someone to go to a WNBA game and heaven forbid sit there and watch it. Though I can't but think if you were to implement that policy in prisons, you would never have any issues in prisons again because they'd be such a viscerally boring, disgusting event. They would dare never misbehave in prison if this punishment was going to a WNBA game. There is also a risk that, again, in the United States, the death penalty is controversial. If the prosecutor assigned the judgment and forcing someone to go to a WNBA game, they may very well die of boredom. Again, that's a controversial thing. Some states do allow death penalty, some states do not. I mean, that is a real possibility. If you go to a WNBA game, you may very well die of boredom. That is a thing. You also have Slapping saying, quote, the only reason I knew anything about WNBA or Angel Reese's name is because of Caitlin Clark getting 6.6 thousand likes. And it perfectly exemplifies how inept and stupid the WNBA leadership is. They are morons. They make any organization seem smart and is an exemplar of success in comparison. If the WNBA had smart leadership, they don't, or smart marketing people, they don't, they would have leaned into Caitlin Clark as a superstar. Caitlin Clark made people watch the WNBA for the first time in decades. To Caitlin Clark's credit, she doubled the attendance at some of her games compared to years where she was not playing there. If the WNBA was smart, they would have highlighted her on every piece of marketing campaign material. They would highlight the growth statistics thanks to Caitlin Clark and no one else. That is one of the best things to happen to that organization in decades. A golden opportunity. You have someone that people are excited to watch. People are actually paying for a WNBA ticket, which I didn't even know was a real thing. I thought they just gave them away for free to families and friends. And yet, they didn't capitalize on that golden opportunity of having Caitlin Clark, who people actually cared about. Instead, they basically didn't highlight her at all, and she gets crapped on by the other players. That alone shows one of the terrible lack of any smart strategy. Going back more and more, Sean Curran has a picture of some NBA players, and they have t-shirts saying WNBA, pay us back, getting 613 likes, which, yeah, the NBA has wasted hundreds of millions of dollars on WNBA. That's one of the worst investments ever. They might make a profit someday before we die, but even if they make a profit that 1 year, there's been $500+ million sunk into that. I mean, this is the ultimate example of a sunk cost fallacy in business where you sink so much money into something, you feel you have to keep going to someday make a return on that. So I don't think it'd be a good idea, but that might be why they're doing it. One of the best examples, this is a great meme, or meme as some people call it. This thanks to Reverend Dr. Aiden Paris. And you have one of the gals with a t-shirt that says, P.S. what you owe us. And then you have Gene Wilder from Willy Wonka, the original OG one. He says, you will get nothing. Which, that was a terrible Gene Wilder attempted impression. You will get nothing. No, that's probably more German. That's terrible. It's an off day, folks. That did get 418 likes. Not me, but, that little meme. Basha says they should have worn this instead. As Caitlin Clark with a t-shirt being altered said, we deserve less pay. Gain 1.5 thousand likes. True. Non-wokeness media says, quote, offended by everything, ashamed by nothing, entitled to everything, contributes nothing. Gain 1.2 thousand likes. Sana Suchi says, quote, Welfare National Basketball Association for Gimme Dats. Pretty good one. I'll give him 80. I get 81 likes. Sam Squash says, hold a WNBA versus NBA All-Star game and see how much they deserve to make. 170 likes, which, yeah, the gals would not score even one time unless the men felt such sympathy. They purposely handicapped themselves and performed terribly. Florida 1 says they want equality in pay, but no profits. You can't make this illness up. Okay, 159 likes, which, typical leftist logic or lack thereof. Mine is a picture of one of the gals with a t-shirt that says, I don't understand how business works. Getting 3.2 thousand likes, which, yep, they really don't. Scrolling down more and more. IBK parody count says, quote, disgusting, disgusting tweet. These women are getting paid pennies on the dollar for playing a grueling game and partaking in a heavily taxing lifestyle. They at least deserve to make a little extra money for savings. Do better. No, they don't. They deserve nothing. They deserve negative because they lose money every single year. You did get 915 likes and 1,000 responses. Now that's smart. Was it engagement baiting? First comment is Buzz saying you love socialism. Getting 382 likes. Alan Rubin says, quote, I deserve to get paid all the sales I don't make too, getting 380 likes. Cole says, are you slow? Getting 1.1 thousand likes. So he was ratioed, as the youth might say, because, yeah, a lot of people, this guy, Caleb, simply says you're disgustingly retarded, getting 168 likes. Well, gotta make that 69. 169 likes. Yes, the WNBA continues to be a joke, and it is hilarious that they say, pay us what you owe us, because, again, they deserve nothing. But who knows? Some companies like to piss away money. Fortune 500 companies, some of them have initiatives for, cultural causes. So maybe they'll toss these gals a bone. But yeah, when it comes to standing on their own 2 feet, I'm pretty pessimistic that WNBA will make a profit in my lifetime. But let me know. Besides Caitlin Clark, can you name one single player? It is hilarious that, I'll meet some of the gals and I'll have some discussions. And every once in a while, they'll make a comment about WNBA. They'll complain. And I go, name me 3 teams. And they never can. No one can name more than one team in the WNBA. Apparently, there was one in Dallas. I didn't even know that until I've been here for years. Now I know that because I was looking into it, making a joke. So I Googled, is there a WNBA team here? So I don't think they'll ever make a profit, but let me know your thoughts because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the political part podcast, you have a Maine Democrat representative saying her goal is to help Somalia because, of course. Now let's broadcast thanks to End Wokeness on X. And he says, quote, Maine Representative Dahik. Well, I'm not personally trying to butcher it, I promise. But again, her name is, she's, quote, Maine Representative Dahak says her goal is to help our country of Somalia. Which, well, she does have a fancy, I don't know if that's a burqa. No. Scarf? No. Hijab. Well, it took me a little while, but I'm 25% sure that's right. And this is credit to ABC News, which is somehow still in business. I gotta give them some credit. I thought they were out of business a long time ago. But maybe she will give us some very smart and articulate reasons on why we should support Somalia, a country that most people, Americans, can't put you on a map. We have no business relationships with, no strategic partnerships with, no shared culture values with. But maybe she'll give us some reasons. Obviously not, but we'll still hear what she has to say.
Policies, how can the politics in Somalia can be, resonate what we have here in the United States, the democracy that we have. How can you help us, be a better country and build back what we used to have back in long time ago? So hopefully we will be able to help our country, our former country, Somalia. And
little Freudian slip, help our country. Oh, our former country. I actually don't think she has to worry about that because many of them haven't been imported here. Like in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which I purposely mispronounced as a slight to that state as it's become a hellhole more and more with leftism policies. And this went pretty well. I got 630,000 views and 14,000 likes. Again, more politicians saying the quiet part out loud. They care about other countries infinitely more than ourselves. And of course, they want to send more of our tax dollars to other countries that in no way help us. Spoiler, we don't do a lot of trading with Somalia. We don't have any, strategic, even militaristically, some people want to make that argument. Even then, I'm sure we have a base there because we have a base in every country on the damn planet, it seems. But yeah, is that an upside? No. Is there a lot of innovation and research development in Somalia? The new iPhone being developed there? Are they going to invent the new technology to revolutionize mankind? Historically speaking, no, probably not. India, do they have shared cultural, values? No, not really. But yeah, let's give them more money, make their country great. When again, we have crappy roads in the United States, we have people dying on the streets, overdose, 100,000 Americans dead every year because of the fentanyl overdoses. As I would argue, China tries to poison us. And she's saying, "Oh no, we need to help Somalia." Again, I don't wish any ill will in the country. I really don't care much about it at all. Maybe they'll turn around. Maybe they'll actually turn around and become a safe, great place to live with research, innovation, and a great culture tomorrow. The odds that are probably just on par is the same as the WNBA making a profit next year. Again, the odds are not zero, but it's probably 0.00000722629 approximately. Now, going to the comment section, one of the first ones comes with thanks to, well, I'm a little biased. It's not the number one comments by likes, but it's one from the most handsome and brilliant one of all. The Topping Show on X. Obviously, I'm kidding. It's me. And I say, quote, "No wonder Democrats like her. She wants her tax dollars to help a different country that has no strategic or business relationship to us." They got 2 likes, which I would argue is all about. Trump would say, "It's all about the quality of quantity. Who needs 1,000 likes when the Topping Show got 2 likes? That's 200% more than 1. That is amazing. It's huge, statistically speaking," which that is true, statistically speaking. Now, you also have the last true Roman reminding me, when was the last time I thought about the Roman Empire falling? Oh, all too often. Now, he says, quote, "Statements like this should result in immediate expulsion from any elected office. Advocating for a foreign country should be illegal. These people should not hold office in America." Gain 2,000 likes. That's good. That's a good point. You have to throw out a lot of Republicans as well, because they love a lot of countries as well that are not our own. I'm getting pretty. How much of our tax dollars have we spent in other countries? Billions and trillions of dollars. And yet, again, the United States is still in disrepair. You also have bomb over e-house and quote, then go back to Somalia. That wasn't that difficult. Gain 1.6 thousand likes. David Santa Clara says, "Why are there Somalians in Maine?" Gain 1.7 thousand likes. Well, it's simple. They're importing many of them. Many of them. Somalia. Minnesota is such a weak, conquered state. They redesigned their flag to look like the flag of Somalia. It's not a coincidence they have nearly the same color and same color pattern. They're weak, pathetic, and conquered. Under the moronic leadership of Tim Walz. He couldn't stop anything. I'm not surprised that he basically not only couldn't stop it, but he encouraged it and facilitated it as well. I'll say allegedly. You effing people says, "Who the F elects these people?" Gained 507 likes. Well, liberal white women and Somalians. Again, there are a lot of folks who agree with these ideologies that we need to help out every other country on the planet except ours. I'm not surprised that these people are getting elected. Now, you also have mirthful moments. Having a gal, and again, I'm pretty sure that's a hijab. I am not pretty sure it is. I don't know fashion. Obviously, I bought one suit, make it look good for life, obviously. But now the mirthful moments as a meme, and it says, quote, "Hates Jews, Christians, atheists, gays, dogs, bacon, wine, beer, your civilization, your culture, your traditions, your country, and you," and then complains about Islamophobia. Getting 208 likes. George Alex Popoulos says, quote, "The parasitic sucking of America's blood needs to stop." Getting 1,000 likes. The conservative alternative also says, quote, "Daily reminder, the IQ in Somalia is 67. 67, that was not a typo." Gained 225 likes. Vantage Archives says, quote, "It's become such a pattern. Leftist politicians get elected in the United States and immediately start advocating for foreign countries. If your loyalty lies elsewhere, why run for office here? Americans deserve representatives who actually care and represent them." Gained 342 likes. Well, it's simple. That's because they know the United States pisses away a lot of money, even though we're $37 trillion in debt, thanks to ineptitude and or corruption by Democrats and Republicans. They know they can funnel money back to their home country. It's morally vacuous, but I understand the logic that of why they're doing it. You also have Amelia Henderson says, quote, "She's in elected office here, but dreams of serving Somalia. That's treason in a suit. No other country tolerates leaders pledging loyalty to another flag." Getting 240 likes. Yeah, that's a good point. Just like how the U.S. is like the only country on the planet, well, before Trump, that basically never actually prosecuted anyone for breaking in. Pretty much every other country puts you in jail for like years, sometimes decades, if you try to break into their country. You know, United States, it's like, oh no, we'll give you amnesty, we'll give you free hotels, free cell phones, free healthcare, free food. You also have Dr. Shari saying, quote, well, a constitutional law, she says, quote, well, by constitutional law, she could be removed from office because she is considered a foreign asset against the United States. And if you really want to push the Constitution, she should actually be deported back to Somalia, getting 232 likes. Not a bad idea. But again, most politicians, there's usually never any negative consequences from them. You also have Kitten said, how exactly does this person become a representative of Maine, getting 47 likes? Well, again, they imported a lot of them. I mean, a lot of leftists hate extremely white areas. Maine used to be very white. They made sure they imported a lot of Somalians, and interestingly enough, a lot of Chinese folks have also immigrated to Maine as well, or broken in. Or as Archie would say, little column A, little column B. So again, my biggest concern is a lot of the values of people that they're importing here, they're not shared. And they want to keep helping out these other countries a lot more than us. And again, the demographic shift in these areas and these voters have been changing dramatically. So again, there's a high propensity or high odds that they actually will get elected. So we'll see. I mean, obviously she's in office, but we'll see if anything happens in terms of, do you think she'll be deported? I mean, I don't. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news: you have a city-funded grocery store failing, nearly immediately as they have mass theft. Which, if anyone, people tune into this show, I know you do some research and you're probably fellow bookworms like myself, but for the folks who don't read, leftist, yeah, who would have thought a government institution or government program wouldn't work? Well, they don't. Now, this is brought to us thanks to N Wokeness, and he says, quote, breaking: a city-funded grocery store trial in Kansas City has already failed. Shelves are completely empty, food rotten, and theft. So weird. Who would have thought, government employees or, government, would they be lazy or inept? Who would have thought that? Oh, yes, anyone with a modicum of intelligence. This is credited also to Channel 41 KSHB. Here, I have a local interview here.
It's clear this Sunfresh at 30.
This is specifically credited to Alyssa Jackson, who's a reporter over there. And actually, she is known as the Alyssa J, spelled DALYSSAJ.
First and Prospect is struggling. This is the first section people see when they come in. There's barely any produce. A lot of the coolers and shelves around the store look the same way, empty. So shoppers have been asking us, if the store isn't closing, then where's all the food?
A rotten smell comes through the door, and anywhere you turn, you'll see products that need to be restocked. No hot food or deli.
I watch people walk in and walk out.
The grocery store has received financial assistance from the city, but has been unable to keep those shelves stocked in an area that in the past has often been referred to as a food desert.
Around here, a good thing don't last too long.
And it will impact a lot of people and a lot of families.
The city owns the Linwood Shopping Center. A nonprofit operates the grocery store.
Yeah, nonprofits are notorious for hiring the best, hardworking people. Oh yeah, not really. And again, there are some nonprofits I do believe do some great, exceptional work, but in this case, yeah, it's also a cultural thing. It is nothing more ironic than people who have a community where statistically speaking, so many people steal from the stores can't actually operate, and then those same people in the community will go, why is there a food desert here? It's because it is not financially viable. It's because stores, I would argue lawyers, they really don't intervene when there's theft. They eventually just pack their bags and go home. Because again, not only is it, they're losing money, but it's also dangerous for the employees and the people there, which is another area or vector of threats for lawsuits. Most famously, Walmart, bless their heart, in terms of trying to do good, for 17 years, they had a store south side of Chicago, or as many people called it Chirac, as more people died there than American soldiers in Iraq. Yeah, for 17 years, Walmart had a store there. It didn't make a profit once. Not once in 17 years. Walmart was basically using it as a loss leader, just, I guess, to show they care about the community, or just to, I can only guess that's why they're doing it. But eventually, even Walmart, who's a multi-billion-dollar company, could not stomach the losses anymore. So in 2024, they closed that store, as well as, I believe, 2 others in the vicinity, or in the general area. Food deserts happen because of mass theft and crime. If a store is profitable, they would stay there. It's quite simple. You're seeing the same thing happen in places like San Francisco, which have mass crime, and they don't really prosecute it. So again, I'm not at all surprised. That area with a lot of crime, he says things don't last here long. Well, yeah, I could have called it. And this unpaid volley got 2.3 million views and 41,000 likes. And yet another example of the government trying to do something and failing. I want to say the scoreboard for government successes versus failures is about as good as a scoreboard for the WNBA, which is to say, I think they've gotten a point once, but I wouldn't know. I wouldn't watch. No one does. But in all seriousness, the government has probably done one or two good things in our life. Maybe, probably. But again, these stores are not financially viable. So, of course, they're going to shut them down left and right. I'm not surprised. It's also obviously a cultural issue. You have areas with high crime. But yeah, the government failed yet again. And this time in Kansas City. So they couldn't, yeah. There's so many things that went wrong in this. Now, going to the comments, one of the first ones comes to us thanks to Gunther Eagleman, who says, quote, does anyone actually think socialism actually works? Getting 3.9 thousand likes. The concerning part is many people do believe it actually works and they vote. Valentina Gomez says, quote, can't wait to see the excuse because communists will come up for this. Getting 3,000 likes. X Van Fleet, a famous individual who escaped communism in China, says, quote, the New Yorkers are fighting hard to get the same type of grocery stores for themselves. Getting 1,000 likes. Oh, yeah? Mr. Zoran Mariamiami, I'm pretty sure that's how I pronounce his name, who is, again, he won the Democrat mayoral primary. And again, he has a high propensity to win because Republicans are outnumbered by Democrats 2-1 in New York City. Obviously mispronouncing as a slight to the crime hellhole that is there. But in a sense where, yeah, he's advocating for government-owned housing and grocery stores. Again, don't work. Nick Sorter says, quote, who could have possibly predicted this? Getting 643 likes. Yeah. Owen Schreier says, quote, I'm stunned. Simply stunned, I say. Getting 659 likes. Paul Zupa says, New York City is looking at this as their future. Getting 180 likes. You have a picture from memes to meme, or memes to memes. It sounds fancier and cooler, I think. It has a picture of a gal pointing at an empty shelf and says, picking out groceries at a socialist country. Getting 419 likes. Derek Evans says, quote, socialism doesn't work. Getting 1.4 thousand likes. Alex Warner says, oh, he actually hashtagged Mr. Zoran Kamami Madiami, which again, now how much ground to stand on with funny names, topping. Now, he says, quote, but they didn't do it right. Ours will be better. Your ideology, and unquote, he says, your ideology fails wherever it's tried. Getting 914 likes. Mrs. B has a picture of North Korea or South Korea and shows, North Korea being basically having no lights. It says, crazy idea. Let's divide a country, capitalist and communist, and check out it 70 years later. Getting 996 likes. Maggot Pill says, I thought we already knew about this. There's a picture of a fancy grocery store with lots of groceries. Says, evil capitalism. Then the empty grocery store says, fair socialism. Getting 952 likes. Liberty Pill Memes says, quote, here's an idea. Instead of locking up merchandise in stores, we should just lock the people up who are trying to steal it. It's just saying. Getting 433 likes. Good point. Unfortunately, the same people who want these social stores and are the same people who say we shouldn't arrest people. We should decrease, the penalties for all crimes. And again, San Francisco is so much theft. They started to lock up ice cream in the CVS and the Walgreens. They pretty much were stealing everything not nailed to the floor. Famously, during a CNN interview, they actually watched the robbery happen too in real time. Where a gentleman, well, not gentleman is obviously a well-educated, cool guy, a scumbag, went into the store with obviously he was wearing a mask and a sweatshirt, and he actually had a big garbage bag, and he just went to one of those highest profitable area stores, the makeup part, and just by the armful, just put all the products into the garbage bag and walked out. No one even tried to stop him. The culture of San Francisco, replicated in places like the culture of Chicago, in this case, St. Louis. Again, fascinatingly enough, and I know we can't do the United States, we don't do it here. In other countries like Dubai, when a thief is caught, they chop off the hand. They have a very high trust society over there, and people don't really steal stuff. Not saying it would work here. I'm just saying it's working over there. Obviously, we have the Bill of Rights. We have rules against cruel and unusual punishment. But it would be nice if there was some punishment for criminals these days in the United States. You also have Sylvia Quinn saying, quote, food deserts are created when theft and crime are rampant. Stores pull up stakes and move out of the area. So you can thank Democrats for food deserts, getting 516 likes. Going down more and more. You also have Miss B saying forever enemies. You have Coca-Cola versus Pepsi, Xbox versus PlayStation, Apple versus Android, and Brain versus the communist logo, or the hammer and sickle logo. Soviet Union getting 317 likes. You also have a couple pictures of Venezuela showing their shelves barren after they implemented all their hellhole socialism policies. So yeah, I don't think anyone's surprised by this. The concerning thing is how many people are trying to advocate for it advocate for these policies to be replicated in other areas of the United States more and more. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the business blunder of the day of Ford issuing their 90th recall of the year. It'll apparently cost the brand $500 million, which, of course. Now this brought to us thanks to Motor1.com. And I should give a warning, you're going to see a Ford vehicle on the screen, so you might want to squint your eyes, though some might argue it's only slightly less viscerally disgusting than my face. But nevertheless, this is, again, credited to Chris Perkins, and they say, quote, Ford just issued its 90th recall of the year. It'll cost the brand $500 million. This recall over leaked fuel injectors supersedes previous recalls that attempted to remedy the issue with a software update and drain tube. Now, again, I apologize. I did already cover this specific recall, but it's worth covering again just because, again, this is now the 90th, which is unfathomable. I believe the second place is Tesla, which also has software updates in the recall. So does Ford. I think that should not count personally if it could be fixed with the over-the-air update. But again, that's the current parameter and is in everyone, all the manufacturers being treated equally with the same statistics for recalls. Tesla is the second most recalled company. Even them, they're under 30. And I think Volkswagen is number 3 at about 15 recalls. Ford is now less reliable than General Motors, which is saying something. Now here you can see a Ford Bronco. Somehow, well, it's parked, so it might be accurate because we don't see it moving, as few of them do. Now they say, quote, Ford issued a recall for 694,274 vehicles over potentially leaky fuel injectors. The recall covers 2021 to 2024 Ford Bronco Sport and 2020 to 2022 Escape models equipped with the Ford's 1.5-liter 3-cylinder engine, and supersedes the two previous recalls that attempted to address the issue. Ford said the recall will cost them around $570 million. Jesus. They say Ford is still working on a final fix to the problem. As an interim solution, it's rolling out software update that help the vehicle detect faulty fuel injectors and take various steps to mitigate a fire risk. Owners can have their vehicle software updated at a Ford or Lincoln dealers. Now, they say, quote, the first recall for this was issued in November 2022. It encompassed 521,746 vehicles. Ford's fix was a software update to detect potentially leaky injectors and a drain tube to get leaking fuel away from the engine. Ford then expanded the recall in March 2024 to cover additional 42,652 vehicles and issued a March 2025 recall for 33,576 vehicles that would be potentially impacted by this. Oh, geez Louise. Now, they say that NHTSA opened up a query in November 2022 and March 2024 for recalls and then April 2024 because of, quote, the remedy program does not address the root cause of the issue and does not proactively call for the replacement of defective fuel injectors prior to the failure, the agency said. The recall also seems to be a result of the NHTSA query and expands it to include additional vehicles, including the 2024 Bronco Sports models. They say of the nearly 700,000 vehicles recalled, Ford estimates just 0.3% are affected. Ford stopped using the faulty injectors in the Escape in December 2022 and February 2024 for the Bronco. Again, they say Ford now leads the industry with 90 recalls in the U.S. thus far, which Automotive News pointed out is a full-year record for any automaker. Great job, Ford. They say a dubious honor to be certain. Stellantis is the next automaker recall on the list. They've only had 18. I mean, it's so bad it's funny. You gotta laugh at it. And again, Jim Farley, I mean, I love a lot of things he's doing. He's the current CEO of Ford. He's a race car guy. He is very dedicated to have a sports car, which is a rare thing these days. He said, I don't care what GM or Chrysler does or Dodge does with their sports car, the muscle cars, will always make a V8 an affordable sports car, which it's kind of affordable. Not really. I don't think it's that affordable. I mean, I think it starts at $50,000 now for the V8, the Mustang GT with stick shift. But again, he did admit when he first got the job, he said the number one priority was reliability. And they seem to be failing more than any. No, they don't seem to be. They are failing more than any other automotive company on the planet. It is almost unfathomable how bad they are. Not financial advice. Their stock is also one of the worst stocks in the automotive industry. The only thing that, well, personally, I think the only reason people buy the stock is because it has high dividend yield. I think it's 5.7%. That's high for the auto industry. But there's so many recalls. I remember last year, was it Q3 2024? I think it was Q3 or Q2 2024. They spent $880 million fixing vehicles. Again, that's less money that they could be using on research and development and also, I mean, just for new vehicles as well, or improving the quality of current vehicles. Again, Ford also has issues by high labor costs, they have the unions. There are a lot of variables that make that are making it difficult, to operate at Ford. Again, 90 recalls. Thank God I got my Honda Civic Si as opposed to the Ford Focus ST. Again, the Ford Focus ST, when I was looking at the vehicles all those years ago, it had more horsepower, more torque, and it's more fun to drive. But my gut just said, the Honda Civic Si still got some good horsepower, about 50 less foot-pound of torque and 50 less horsepower, but it's Honda. Damn near bulletproof. And thank God I chose that as my daily driver. It does make me smile ear to ear every time I, shift and, accelerate and hear the turbo whirl, which again, the Focus ST also had turbo, but nevertheless, their brand is so tarnished. Even the trucks, which Ford had a modicum of intelligence, they put every resource possible in terms of quality assurance into their trucks. That and the SUVs. That's when they make a majority of their profit. I mean, the F-150 is still the best truck sold in North America by number of units sold. And yet, some of those diehard Ford fans that I know, they're starting to look at competition and they're starting to buy other vehicles. I mean, this is a year that Ford needs to get their crap together. I don't know how much longer they'll be viable as a company. Again, they're still profitable. Don't get me wrong. Their sales are still going. But again, they're also losing $5 billion a year on their EV division, which is why they should be extra careful with the gas cars because they actually make the money to fund all their initiatives. All their, I would argue, foolish ambitions. As again, they lose last year's 4.9, this estimated $5.4 billion loss this year on the EV division. It might make a profit in the future. I'm not saying it's going to be unprofitable forever. But yeah, when it comes to Ford, hitting the 90th recall of the year, and we're barely halfway through. I gotta say, Ford, you are certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so you click that button. I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.